Danny Flexent here for Seconds Out with Frank Warren, legendary Hall of Fame promoter. Frank, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Good
Obviously,
man.
coming off the press conference for Anthony Yard against
Yeah.
Lyndon Arthur. That card on April 11th is getting pretty stacked now.
It is, isn't it? There's some good fights on there, and they're good competitive fights, even money fights, big punches. So I think there'll be some action on the night.
Did they take much convincing? I know Arthur's team have been chasing this fight for a little while, but maybe Anthony had ideas of a higher level fight, perhaps?
Well, he did, but the thing was the WBO had called for those two eliminators that, for their title, so he's the next guy in, and we wanted to make sure that he fought a rated guy and a rated fighter who's Lyndon. He's got a WBO ranking. So the winner of that, I hope, will become the mandatory. It's a tough fight for both of them.
We also got Chris Jenkins, Johnny Garton for the British title on the
Yeah.
bill. Any more kind of surprises up your sleeve?
Not at the moment. We're looking at a couple of things, but I mean that's the nucleus of the show.
And you mentioned at the press conference you've sold 12,500 tickets so
Yeah.
far without the undercard even being announced.
Yeah.
What are you projecting as an overall
Well,
gate?
so everybody knows the place holds just under 20,000, but I think it's about 4,500 of those are the benches, the people who've got the boxes. So we don't have the boxes. So that's what we've got to sell.
So I'll use my quick maths to say that's about 15?
Yeah, just under 15, yeah.
Brilliant. And do you project to sell it out?
Yeah. Plenty of time to go, and we're doing it. The tickets are going really well.
Have you had many reports from the camps of Dubois and Joyce ahead of this and how they're looking and stuff like that?
For both of them, I spoke to Sam Jones a few days ago. He said his man's looking in excellent shape. But he should look in excellent shape. He's in a tough fight, and the same for Daniel as well. You know, Martin's really pleased the way the training's going, so I think there's going to be no excuses on the night from anybody.
And obviously Nathan Gorman, who we saw lose to Daniel not too long ago, he's now coming back as well. It's going to be an interesting mix in the next few years, certainly domestically and maybe beyond.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world for guys who lose fights. I mean, I can sort of look back to when we did James DeGale and George Groves very early in their careers, and both of them went on to win world titles. So it's not the end of the world to get beat.
Is this kind of a pattern that you'd like to see continue, domestic kind of rivalries leading to big fights?
We've done it over the years. If you go look at some of the big domestic fights, they're fights that we've put together with our fellas. And as I say, that's what the fans want to see. They want to see the best fights in the best.
Now, Dubois against Joyce, April 11th, we talked about. It's going to be on BT Sport box office. Something that I know a lot of fans are talking about at the moment is there's quite a lot of pay-per-view events in boxing taking place around that period. Obviously, that's the only one on BT Sport, but there's a few on Sky, I think 3 in a short period of time. Joshua, White, Povetkin and Chisora Usyk, which hasn't officially been announced yet, but we're expecting it at the end of May. What do you say to fans out there who are kind of struggling and having to pay, well, not having to, but if they want to see them all, they have to pay quite a lot of money?
Well, if you want to see the best fight, it's the one we're putting on. That's what I'd say to them. Simple as that. We're not overloading them with pay-per-view fights. I mean, to get the fight we had to get that fight on between Daniel and Joe, we had to give them some serious guarantees, and the only way it works is through pay-per-view. But that's what it is. But we're not overloading BT subscribers with pay-per-view events. I mean, it's just one, and it's got an excellent undercard with some cracking fights on it. You got the question you need to ask are the people who are promoting those fights. It's not for me to talk about what they're doing.
Rest assured I will.
Good.
But do you, when you hear that they've announced, Sky announced that many pay-per-view fights around your fight as well, do you kind of sigh inwardly a little bit and think it's not great for the fans?
Of course I do. It's, I could do without that, and they probably could do without themselves. They're competing against themselves, but that's nothing unusual. They were doing it all last year and the year before. I mean, you can go and look and see how many they put on. That's their model. That's their business model. So, let them get on with it. It's not my problem.
Will we see, with that being their business model, if that is the case, will we see BT stepping into the void a bit more, so more regular BT sports shows?
We do the same as we always do. We have a contract with them to deliver a certain amount of dates per annum, and we will carry on doing what we've been doing since we've been with them, which is delivering quality events. And if we've got to step up to compete with, which we have to do to compete at a certain level in the market, then some of those events will be pay-per-view.
Can you project any fights that you see in the future, maybe the rest of this year, that could end up being pay-per-view for you guys? Big fights?
Joshua and Tyson. Or I should say Tyson and Joshua. Yeah, that'd be one, certainly. And I'm sure there's a couple of other fights out there, but I'm not even thinking about that at the moment. I'm just thinking about what we're doing there. And obviously working our way towards our guys getting exposure. It's very important they get exposure and get seen by the public. That's why we did that last one as well at your call with ITV. You know, we worked very hard to get some exposure there for some of our guys, and they got some good. They were seen by quite a few people.
Is that a relationship that's likely to continue?
We hope so, and we're working on it.
And just while we're talking about broadcasting events, DAZN UK, it was announced last week they're going to be coming into the UK market starting on the 2nd of May, most likely. What did you make of that news?
People have been talking about what they're doing. I think when they do these deals, when they do their deals with their promoters, they acquire worldwide rights for most of their shows. So it makes sense for them, I would assume, to just show those fights. I don't know if they're going to be putting shows on in the UK. I mean, I have no idea, and I don't know how that works out with Sky and the deal they've got with their promoter. Again, that's a question to ask them. I mean, for me, the more competition, the better. The more TV companies get involved in the sport, it's got to be great for boxing, great for our sport, and more important, great for the boxers, increase their earning capacity.
I mean, in the short term, it appears that the Matchroom USA shows that currently are on Sky will be reverting back to the zone over here.
I've got no idea. Don't even ask me. I have no idea. I mean, the only person that can tell you that, well, not the only person, I'm sure DAZN can tell you or Sky can tell you. But if you're a Sky subscriber and you want to find out, pick up the phone and ask Sky.
Do you think DAZN then more of a threat to Sky than any other broadcaster because of the relationship Matchroom have with DAZN?
No, I don't think so at all. I think Sky's been a. I mean, I sort of basically got Sky into boxing in a big way, and was instrumental in building their business. They got new owners now, and they'll determine what direction they're going to go and what they want to invest in, what sport they want to invest in. Boxing's always been a great sport for them. They do lots of pay-per-view shows now, I believe, because obviously it doesn't affect their budgets. They've not, by doing a pay-per-view show, they've not got to pay rights fees out. That's maybe why you've seen so many pay-per-view shows, and I don't know, but you know, their immediate competition is and will be BT.
And we know that Matchroom's contract with Sky runs out in about a year's time. There's speculation already that they might then link up with DAZN as they have in the US. Do you have a kind of a horse in the race where you'd like them to end up? Does it help you either way?
I don't care. I'm in the BT business. You know, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. I'm with BT. We've got a long-term deal with them, and it's working very well. We've built some great fighters up, put some good fights on, and built some fighters up on there, giving them some great exposure, and winning titles. And that's the way we'll continue to do. Whatever happens between DAZN and Sky and the relevant promoters. It will all shake out. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, obviously, I won't say I'm not interested in seeing where it all goes, but it's going to be quite interesting. I'm sure everybody's circling.
Last time we spoke to you, you said about extending the relationship with BT, even though I think there's still quite some time to run. Is that still discussions going back and forth?
Not discussions. We're pretty much in a position where we'll be making an announcement soon.
Brilliant. That must be great for you to build from a position of such security.
Well, it is, and also you've got to remember they're only doing that because what we've delivered. Up to now, in a very short space of time, they've been broadcasting the best heavyweight on the planet's fights, the best two got next tier level guys in the heavyweight division to fight each other on the 11th of April, and that's besides all the other fighters that we've been putting on in good fights. So we're in good shape, and we've got a tremendous group of fighters coming through who are I think going to be mega stars by the end of the year, early next year. Some really good quality youngsters, and I think that's going to be great again for boxing, for us and for BT.
So the feedback from BT has obviously been overwhelmingly positive. Is there anything they've said in terms of they want more of anything? They've said, look, Frank, it's going great, but we'd really like to see more of this or that.
No, they're happy with what they trust. They put their trust in us. They're not the first platform we built. I built domestic boxing on ITV. There was no domestic boxing on ITV. I built domestic boxing on Sky. I built domestic boxing on Setanta.
Just need you to do BBC now.
I only did 2 shows in my whole career on that channel, but and we're doing the same with BT. We're building them. I know what it takes and what we have to do, and we've done it time and time again, and as I say, I'm focused entirely on BT. That's where we're at. We like working with them. We like working with the people there. They're committed, and they're very close to the boxing. You know, they come and meet the fighters and so forth. So we had a really good, you know, sort of a good relationship, and it's continuing to even be stronger as we move forward.
Now, we've mentioned in passing Tyson Fury a number of times already, but let's talk about him specifically. When was the last time you spoke to him? I saw you visited him at his home in Morecambe recently.
I was to see him last week. I went up to see him and went out for some lunch with him in Paris, and I spoke to him a couple of times on the phone. We don't drive each other mad, and he's in a good place. He's very happy. He's back with his family, having had a very long and, you know, drawn out training camp, and it's good for him to get back with his kids and spend some time with them and the family.
And from speaking to him, obviously he's elated with the victory. Do you see him continuing the relationship with Sugar Hill Steward and training over there going forward?
I think he will. You know, he did a good job. He provided him what he needed. That's what I said from the beginning. With Tyson, when he changed trainers, he's not stupid. He's a very, very astute boxing man. He understands the sport. He understands what he needs to add to his armoury, and Sugar Hill did that. That was his choice alone. Nobody else. He picked him and did what he had to do. Same as he picked Ben Davison. You know, when he got Ben, everyone was saying, "Who's Ben Davison?" at the time. So Ben's gone on to do some good things now, and good luck to him. He's doing well. He's got a couple of good fighters that he's training, world-class fighters, world champions, and Tyson will do what he always does, which is to do the best for Tyson Fury.
What did you make of the ITV documentary on Tyson, the Gypsy King?
I loved it. I thought it was really good. I thought it was quite enlightening. It's nice to see the other side of a boxer's life. You know, it was quite interesting, and I think a couple of stars came out of it, didn't they?
Was there anything that you saw in the documentary that surprised you? Something you didn't know about Tyson?
What I see now, I didn't know at the time, was the wrestling.
Oh, you didn't know about that at all?
No, he went to a wrestling match. He didn't even go there he just went to a wrestling match and never got involved in wrestling. But that's Tyson. He's very spontaneous, and I mean, you look at what he's done in the last 18 months or so, whatever period it is since he's come back. You know, besides the weight and the terrible place he was in and where he's got himself to, it's phenomenal. It's the biggest comeback in any sport, bar none, in the most dangerous of sports. You know, the toughest of all sports. And he come back and done it. Not he just done it, he's done it in style and proven to the world that, you know, he is the #1 heavyweight out there. I mean, destroyed a guy who was considered to be by some, the hardest punching heavyweight statistically of all time. Certainly in my time, the hardest punching heavyweight in the last 35 or 40 years, maybe 35 years. And we just took him to school, done a job on him out, boxed him out, fought him, and did what I felt he could do, which was to stop him, and he'd done that.
With that in mind, it was so dominant. Is there any point in the rematch?
Well,
third fight,
it's
rather.
It's contractually bound to happen, and that's where, you know, we've told everybody that before the fight. I'm reading all this stuff that's being said and all this rubbish that's going around. That's what the position was. The same it was in AJ's. For AJ to keep his title, he's got to fight Pulev, and that's what he's had to do.
When's it likely to be? We're hearing maybe July?
Don't know yet. There's some meetings taking place and see what happens.
And projecting further forward, you mentioned earlier about potential super fight between Tyson and AJ. There's been talk from some parties that there's already been discussions had. You came out and said that's not true. Just clear that up for us.
Well, clear it up. There was a lot of points made by Matchroom saying that they've been talking with Bob Arum. Eddie Hearn said he'd been talking to him, and they're close to doing a deal. And Bob Arum and I did a press conference last week where Bob Arum said, I'll use the words, it's ludicrous. His words, not mine, it's ludicrous, and that's not true. And the only way this deal is going to happen is for all of us to get round the table. And that's what we want to do. And what everybody else, whatever, no matter what anyone else is saying, that's the only way it's going to happen. And we want it to happen. We want to deliver it to the fans. It's not about my ego or anybody's ego. It's about these two fighters. And at the end of the day, based upon if we all get round the table and decide, it's then going to be, from our perspective, for Tyson to see if he wants to do it or not. Because at the end of the day, it's his decision. Nobody else's, not mine, nobody's. Not Bob Arum's, no one's. It's down to Tyson Fury.
Now, some people say the fight should go wherever it's going to make the most money. Do you think it'd be a travesty, though, if it didn't take place in the UK?
Well, I can go back and think of all the great fights over the years that have taken place. You know, I can think of you know, Zaire, the Rumble in the Jungle. Should that have been in Zaire or should it have been in the US? Was it a travesty it went to Zaire? Look back on it, no, it wasn't. It was, it's part of boxing folklore, sporting folklore, the Rumble in the Jungle. You think of the Thriller in Manila, the two guys going there, two Americans going there, not in their home country. Was that a travesty? No, it goes back again to be one of the great moments in sport. Is it a travesty that Gareth Bale leaves the UK and goes and plays football at Real Madrid? He goes to play for them.
Not when he was at Tottenham, no.
Yeah, well, exactly. But you know,
he'd have left the better
where else
team,
would you go?
Not getting so much trouble.
You know, or if you look at David Beckham and various other fighters and sportsmen over the year, they've got very short life, and they ply their trade and get paid wherever they can make the most money. And boxing, as I keep saying, is the most dangerous of all sports. So they've got to get paid. And if somebody wants to put the money up, a country or a person wants to guarantee the money, then that's something for everybody to consider and do. If the UK can make it happen, then I'm sure all of us, I'm sure Tyson, AJ, Matchroom, us, we'd all love it to be in the UK. But as I said, it maximises the income that it can generate.
And what about the UK TV situation? Is there any possibility once you get round that table, as you've talked about, that it can be split?
Everything's for negotiation, but the contractual position is that, like I told you before, is that BT have the last rights. So whatever happens, it's got to be down to BT.
But could there be an agreement between the broadcasters?
Well, of course they can. I mean, look, the only way you're going to get all these, it's no good even me telling you, I'm not being avoiding it. The only way any of these things are going to be answered is for the people involved to get round a table. And if you don't get round a table, it's never going to happen. That's the only way it can happen. It's the only way it can be delivered. It's not for me to say what the other side are going to be doing. It's not for me to say that I'll only speak to Freddie Cunningham. I won't speak to Eddie Hearn. That's not how it works. It's up to everybody to act like adults and stop spouting their mouths off and moving forward.
I mean, we saw with Wilder Fury rematch that was split across the two different broadcasters in the US. So there's a model there.
Well, it's happened in the past before. HBO and Showtime have shared broadcast, and you know, if that's what it takes for it to happen, I will bang the drum and make sure at our end we're pushing hard as we can to make it happen.
And before we leave the Fury subject behind, I just want to ask you, long esteemed career, where does that sit in terms of victories from your fighters?
Best. Because it was top, you know, elite fighters, the two best heavyweights out there, going into that fight, two undefeated heavyweights. What was he, 6 years? 6 years as champion, Deontay Wilder. I mentioned earlier that, you know, knockout ratio and so forth. And hardly any press gave Tyson a chance going into that fight. They all were going the other way. You know, not only did he win the fight, he absolutely won it in the best style and destroyed him. And that, to me, beating an elite fighter at his best, that is nothing better than that. Joe Calzaghe did that with Kessler when Kessler was at his best. Another great fight. But when I look at the danger that Deontay Wilder brought, and that power that he had, and how comprehensively Tyson took him apart, that's the best.
And just before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about Billy Joe Saunders fighting Canelo.
Yeah.
It's a fight that you tried to make a number of times when Billy was with you. What do you think's made the difference this time around? Has Canelo maybe seen something that now he's willing to take the fight?
I think it's a bit of both. I think the first thing is that they run out of opponents. It's out of him and Callum Smith, wasn't it? That's what it was. They've run out of opponents. There's no, you know, that's what happened. You know, we had contracts signed. We signed them to fight Golovkin twice, not once, twice. Canelo spoke to. What killed the Canelo fight was when we was all sitting ringside out in Canada when Lemieux got absolutely destroyed, and I looked over at Eric Gomez and he just shook his head. And if I was him, I'd have been shaking my head. But obviously they've seen something, or maybe feel that Bill, you know, having gone up in weight and, you know, not fought regularly enough. I don't know. That's up to them. But if anyone can beat him, it's Bill.
Do you think he's the same fighter up at super middle that he was at middle?
Well, you know, last time out he didn't look too good. I mean, he says that himself. He'd done the job at the end, but he'll have to be up for this one, and I'm sure he will be up for it. You know, the challenge. It's a challenge. He ain't going to go in there looking and think he's going to have an easy night's work there. He's going to have to be at the top of his game to beat Canelo.
You guys obviously had a long time together. He might have moved on to pastures new now, but will you still get a sense of pride if he pulls it off?
Well, I always felt he had the beating of him, and I hope he does. I hope he does do it. Of course, I hope he does it. But we'll see on the night.
Going to get you to give a prediction, or are you not?
I was near the fight. I want to see how Bill is. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if he's been in training. If he's not been in training, then he's got to worry.
But at his best, if they're
If,
both,
if he's at his best, the thing about his fighting, if it was made at middleweight, I'd have Bill all day long. It's whether, and Canelo is a big guy. You know, what's he going to be like at super middle? That's the only thing, because, you know, Canelo went up to light heavyweight and come back down again. He's coming back down. He's going to be very strong at that weight. But Bill's got a fantastic boxing brain. Great boxing brain.
Brilliant. Frank Warren, always a pleasure, and appreciate your time.
Pleasure, Dan.